Good evening, and welcome to the autumnal equinox edition of the Tucson Macintosh User Group meeting. Our next meeting is on the Tuesday, October 17th, at this same virtual location. In October, we will have a Ask Me Anything session hosted by Kevin and an accessibility minute with Chris Wesselman. Tonight, we have Tony Ewing, who has given us initial thoughts on the September 12th Apple event. And we have a special guest, and that is going to be Derrick Story, a well-known photographer, podcaster, educator, and all-around good guy.
Long time Mac Apple guy.
Right.
Yes, he is. And he's going to be showing us a way to preserve and protect those family photos. It's likely that many of us here in this gathering are those people in our family who, here's this shoebox full of old photos. Please take these and protect them and preserve them. And, and then you got to think, well, gee, what if fire, flood, hurricane, catastrophe, earthquake? And Derrick has a way to easily get those in the cloud at a resolution where you can do something with them later if the really bad things happen. A slightly longer term perspective, Dave Hamilton of the Mac Geek Gab has signed up for October. He will be giving his take on the new hardware and software announced in September. Now, Tony's going to do a great job. He always does. But this is like the first blush. In another month, Dave Hamilton will have a new perspective. He may even have some of the equipment that he can comment on. And I want to issue a caution, because this may end up causing TMUG members to purchase new equipment. But Dave Hamilton is always an interesting presenter and a really good guy. Several of the MacStock presenters have agreed to give presentations to TMUG over the next several months. We hope to have a wealth of outside talents for our meeting. See the chat window for a link to online presenter review poll. Have you put it in there yet, Bob? If he hasn't, I'm sure he'll do it very soon. Yep, there it is. There's the link. Please click on that link. You can click on it now. It'll take you to a web page that you can fill in later. It really does help us plan future meetings. The new virtual door prize during our Zoom meeting last month, the winner was Denny Smith. Congratulations, Denny. He was here. Yeah, there he is. The monthly door prize is now $30 per month. So if you win the door prize, basically, you will get a year's free membership. Something like that. Please don't let me close the meeting without picking the door prize winner. Like the super raffle to be eligible, the screen name displayed must match with the record of your current TMUG membership. If we can't identify you, your name will not be placed in the raffle. There is a Scott Kelby worldwide photo walk taking place in October on the 7th in downtown Tucson. If you are interested in joining this walk, there's no cost to do so. If you're interested, you can just go to Worldwide Photo Walk. I'm sure that'll take you there where you can sign up for that. Are there any other announcements? Something I forgot? Moving forward, are there any for sales or wanted to buys? Okay. Next up, we have Ridge with his regular announcements for updates to software and security updates. Ridge, are you ready to take it away? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I am.
Take it away, Ridge.
Okay, share screen.
Good.
Play. How's that? So
Perfect.
okay, here's the software updates that should be of interest to all of us. 1Password is up to 8.10.15. BB Edit for those who use it. And Carbon Copy Cloner is now okay with Sonoma. And if you're using Chrome for the Mac, it has several updates from 1.16.96 to 1.17.88. And when you see the word through in a software update, that means there were several important updates in between. So rather than take up screen space, I just decided to go from one to the other to the end. And if you're using Chrome on your iPad or your iPhone, it had updates from 1.16.103 through 1.17.108. And Firefox, if you're using that, is now up to a 1.17.3. That's for the iPad and the iOS. And if you're using it for the Mac, it's up to 1.17.01. And a graphic converter, I was using it yesterday, and it got updated. It's up to 12.04 now. And if you're using GIMP, it's now up to 2.10.34-3, and it's now okay with any of the M1 and M2 Macs. And Little Snitch is now okay with Sonoma at version 5.7. And TechTool Pro utility is up to 18.03. And Text Expanders that had an update. And Office for Mac is up to 16.77 now. Pixelmator, if you're using that for the iOS, iPad, or Pro for the Mac, it's now up to 3.011 and then 3.4.1. And Zoom is running now, right now it's running 5.16.0. That's what I'm running right now. And I just updated that earlier today. And if you're interested in the Apple updates, Big Sur got updated, and so did Monterey. And Ventura is now up to 13.5.2. The iPad and the iOS operating systems are up to 17.0 now. And if you're running the older 15 version of iOS iPad, it's 15.7.9. And Safari is now up to 16.6. And the TV operating system is up to 17, and Watch is now up to 10. Coming is going to be another update to Monterey and Ventura, and Sonoma has still not been released yet, so it's still hanging in there at the 14.0, and Safari 17 is coming, and the Vision OS for the artificial intelligence goggles, that'll come out when those goggles are finally released to the public. And the HomePod software is going to be coming out with a version 17 update. And if you're running a studio display, their firmware is coming with an update version 17. And if you're a programmer, the Xcode is coming 15. And now the Wonderlust event that was held on September 12th is going to be covered later by Tony. So I just wanted to show you the picture of the that Apple released for everybody to look at. And here's something about, if you're interested in using Sonoma when it comes out, these are the Macs that it will work with. And the oldest Mac, which looks like the iMac Pro from 2017 and later. All the others are 2019 and 2018 and 2022 and so forth. So I'll just leave this there for a second or two to see if you can find your Mac that you might want to maybe updated to Sonoma. All right, next screen. Then Thunderbolt news. Intel has launched and demoed Thunderbolt 5. And it's supposed to offer double the speeds of Thunderbolt 4. And when you're using it in a video intensive usage, a feature that it has is called bandwidth boost. It is going to afford 3 times the throughput of Thunderbolt 4. And this is the chart below that they released. It'll tell you about what's today and what's coming tomorrow as far as data and video. And PC connection, you're only going to need a single cable for more of the notebooks rather than a second cable. And you can see the ends of the cables sticking there with 4 and 5 written on them. So you'll now know whether you're running Thunderbolt 4 or Thunderbolt 5. Backblaze news. Their chief executive officer recently said that they're going to increase the prices as of October 3rd. And you can see on the chart below that the current prices and what the new prices will be. But whatever license you have already, it's going to be honored for the duration of that license. So you won't get charged again or and as far as rumors go, the latest guess as to when iPads are going to next get updated is sometime next year. And online feeling is now that the Macs and MacBooks that'll come with M3 chips in them is not going to come out until next year as well. How about Nostalgia Corner? This is a new, well, the Apple One, there was an Apple One in working order, sold in an auction in Boston. It was closed last month, in August. It went for $223,000. And that board was signed by Woz. And there's a new check that's signed just by Jobs in 1976. It's in pristine condition, and it's also up for auction and expected to sell for over $25,000. The 9th of July of 1976, not too long after Apple Computer became a company. And the up for auction pre-Apple check that we looked at last month, it actually went finally for $135,000. And now there's an iPad that was signed by Jobs and given as a gift to a dentist in Hawaii. And it's going to be up for auction and expected to sell for over $10,000. And as far as our own goodies like logo, cloth, and pins, we still have them. And if you want one, contact me or Kurt Blanchard to buy one. And that's it for that part of the presentation. And now we'll turn for items of security interest for this month. Adobe only had Cold Fusion and InDesign updates that included security fixes. Chrome for the Mac, it's on its way from 116.96 through 117.62, had a total of 37 total fixes over all of the updates. And the Chrome for iOS also had 10 fixes on its way to 116.103. And then Firefox for the Mac went up to 117.0 and it had 13 fixes in it. And Microsoft had 3 fixes in their updates to Office for Mac. And there was one password for Mac that had a fix for security, and it's now up to 8.10.15. And Apple's software updates that had fixes are listed here. Most everything had at least one fix for security purposes. Now, as far as cybercrime goes, There's a $169 hacking device called a Flipper Zero, which can spam nearby iPhones with Bluetooth pop-ups requesting you to connect to various items. And thanks to this, hackers can spam your iPhone with annoying Bluetooth pop-ups, prompting you to connect to a nearby whatever. And a security researcher identified as Anthony demonstrated this attack using one of the Flipper zeros, a small device that can be programmed to perform wireless attacks on devices in its range, such as iPhones, but also car key fobs, contactless and RFID cards, and more. His attack is essentially a denial of service one. By pushing persistent pop-ups, someone can make an iPhone essentially unusable. But the as-is Flapper Zero that's available right now needs to be fairly close to its victim because of its limited range. But apparently it can be fitted with an amplified board to extend its range to thousands of feet. And fixing all of this would require an eventual Apple update to the iOS, iPad OS. But in the meantime, if you get caught with this, you're best to increase your distance from the attack origination area and shut down your iPhone. Then now I'll talk about atomic stealer malware, which is malware that targets Mac users and distributed in Trojan horse downloads driven by bad Google ads. Various phishing sites trick victims into downloading what they believe is an app they want, but the malware is bundled in a signed application, so it cannot be revoked by Apple. The payload is a new version of the recent Atomic Stealer for OS X and has a strong focus on harvesting passwords from browsers and Apple's keychain. And the criminals who buy this malware toolkit have been distributing it mostly via cracked software downloads and are also impersonating legitimate websites and using ads on search engines such as Google to lure victims in. Now, for a good thing, the best antivirus for Mac, according to a recent Macworld Online article, and if you're going to pay for it, Intego Mac Internet Security X9, which is about $50 a year. But if you want a free antivirus that's got a high rating, AVG antivirus for the Mac is what to do. Thanks for your attention. And of course, the thing we want to say about all of that is stay safe and pay attention to what you're doing on the internet. Thank you. And now we're gonna stop the share.
Thank you, Ridge.
All up to you now.
Okay. Always appreciate all that good news and some of the bad news, but it helps us be safe. And I'm going to turn it over to Tony. I don't see Tony here. Tony, are you with us?
I am here. I just need to talk. So go to the top.
Okay. Well, not the top on my one, but as long as you're here, please go ahead with your report on the Apple event from last week.
Okay. So this event was last week. You saw the picture from Bridge. I've included the link here so that when I put these show notes into the groups.io, you can click on the link and watch the event if you would like to watch it. So this is the kind of preview. I don't think there was anything really unexpected that Apple announced. One of the bigger things was the environmental stuff. They talked a lot about how they're helping the environment and making carbon neutral devices now, depending on the watch and or band selection, using a lot more recycled materials for cases, all sorts of things like that. And they actually spent, I think it was about 5 minutes during the presentation to do a video that I would recommend watching. It's Mother Nature Comes to Visit Apple. Okay, so as expected, iPhone 15s, iPhone 15 Pros, new Watch Series 9, and a new Apple Watch Ultra. I have a little bit on each one. A lot of this is very similar to what happened last year with Series 8. The difference in terms of the cases this year, they now have this nice light pink case. That case that's on the left there is the light pink color. And that is the new color. The stainless steel ones are the same. I did find out that they do have a stainless steel black one. If you get an Hermes band, you can get that in the old black stainless. The display now is double the brightness of the previous Series 8 watch, and the minimum is now a very, very low. I think they said it goes all the way down to 1 nit, which is what you would want to use in a very dark room that's almost black, so you don't bother other people. So the lowest brightness is very low, and the highest brightness is much more readable in sunlight. They have a new processor, as expected. It has a 4-core neural engine. It has Siri now on device. And because Siri is on device, they are allowing it to access your health and fitness data. And that means that there's a lot more processing occurring. They made improvements in the voice recognition and the text recognition from voice, so dictation. And they have this new gesture called the double tap gesture, where you can see there in the lower right corner, person putting their finger and thumb together. You do that, you double tap that. And we saw something like that in the Vision Pro presentation. They're now trying to do this with the Apple Watch. It may take a little time to work really well for you, but they said it uses machine learning on the device to recognize your double tap. And that essentially allows you to do whatever is the selected action on your watch, whatever the default button is. So when an alarm goes off, the snooze button is the default. So if you double tap, it will give you a snooze without having to do anything else. So that gesture is very interesting, and it looks like it is enabled by the newer processor. They didn't make any mention of this occurring on the Watch Series 8 or on the SE. So I don't think it's an OS feature. I think it is a new S9 processor feature. They've added an updated ultra wideband on the watch, and the picture in the lower left there kind of shows precision finding of an iPhone. So it's showing you kind of the direction to go and how far away the iPhone is. And then it shows you the direction, you move that way, and then it gets green when you're close and lights up to help you find your iPhone when you've placed it somewhere random, or if you're in a dark room and can't find it. They've also added a new feature which is HomePod integration using the same type of ultra wideband. When you're within a few meters of a HomePod, it'll bring up the now playing and allow you to control the HomePod if you're close to it. I'm assuming that HomePod will have to be recognized as one of your devices, and you can't just do that to a random person's HomePod unless they've given you permission. The price is the same. The GPS version, the smaller face, is $399. You add $100 for the cellular coverage. And one of the other things that they did is they have now doubled the storage on the watch. The previous S8 version has 32 gigabytes of storage. This new one has 64, so it'll be able to store more things on device, and be able to store, more books. More audio can be stored directly on the watch. At 64 gig, there's a lot of time that you could listen to music or something without having a phone along with you at all. They did also talk a little bit about some other features that are coming with iOS 17, but those will also work with the previous series watches, which were the biggest one was being able to connect to Bluetooth fitness devices directly from the watch. So like a cycling band around your arm or anything like that. If you have a Bluetooth medical device, you'll be able to likely connect it directly to the watch. Okay. The Apple Watch Ultra 2. This to me, this was not this was clearly a these are the things that we wanted to do last year, but we couldn't get all of this stuff to work. So they have a brighter display, and it's 50% brighter than the previous one. So the Ultra display from last year is the same brightness as the Series 9, and now this one is 50% brighter, so it's even brighter in sunlight. They have a flashlight boost so that it'll be able to help you see stuff when you're using the flashlight mode. It does have the new S9 processor, and with that, it gets the double tap gesture. It also gets the precision finding for iPhones, and they doubled the storage on, I think they do that in the S9 module. And so this one also has 64 gigabytes of storage. You can see in the top of that picture, they have created some new color bands, and they're using a lot of post-consumer recycled content in these bands. So they're not all brand new materials. They're trying to use some recycled, especially in the fabric bands. I think that they said that the ocean or that the rubber band is still new material, but the fabric bands are recycled content. Okay, next thing they talked about was the iPhone 15 Plus. And so this now looks very similar to, at least on the front, to what an iPhone 14 Pro looked like. It's a very similar display. It looks like this might be a little bit wider in terms of the dynamic island. They have 5 colors: blue, green, yellow, pink, and black, and they're all pretty light muted colors. It has the dynamic island now. It has the brighter display with the same brightness as the Pro model. It has the A16 processor, similar to last year's Pro model. And they did upgrade the camera. So now the primary camera has a 48 megapixel main camera that includes that 2x telephoto, where it uses the 12 megapixels in the center of the display to make a larger image. And they added action mode in. I think that was enabled by the A16 processor. So the USB-C is now the connection, and it says that it's USB 2 speeds on the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, which means about 500 megabits per second. So it's not a lot faster than the Lightning used to be. But it is now USB-C. It has the improved Find My version, and they have updated. Last year they introduced roadside emergency assistance via satellite. They now have roadside assistance via satellite, and so that's a AAA. It will be provided by AAA in the United States. They didn't say who's providing it outside the United States, but as long, if you're on a back road somewhere and you don't have cell phone service, you will be able to use roadside assistance via satellite. As a very, very short, kind of as an incidental thing, they announced an AirPods Pro with a USB-C charging case. A lot of people think these are almost identical, except for the case, to the previous AirPods Pro 2nd Gen. These will be able to charge from the iPhone USB-C or any USB-C charger, but you can charge them from the phone. And they say they're going to support lossless audio with the Vision Pro. I think I'm interested in hearing next month if the previous generation AirPods Pro 2nd Gen that have the Lightning connector also support the lossless audio with an update. Okay, so now iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. So they have switched over. They're using a titanium case. You can see it here on the side, and that's kind of what they were trying to imply with that Wonderlust. It's the titanium that they're using. So there's 4 colors. And those were on those earlier charts, the natural blue, white, and black. What they have now added is they replaced the mute switch with an action button. So apparently people have really liked the Apple Watch Ultra's action button, and now you can use the action button on your iPhone. You can still use it for mute. You can use it for any of those quick items that are on the control center display, I believe, can be mapped to the action button. They're showing examples of translate, magnify, using the flashlight, taking a picture, switching to one of the focus modes. And so it will allow you to switch quickly. There's also ways to have multiple items tied to the action button. I'm interested in seeing how that works. The next thing, they did kind of announce and say they now call this the A17 Pro processor. So my expectation is that next year they're going to have a regular A17 processor that's not a Pro processor, and that's what will go into the iPhone 16 base model that's non-Pro, and it probably won't have all of the features that the Pro does. In the camera, so they made some updates again. The base module, you have the 13 and 24 millimeter. They now have it set up so that you can select by the equivalent focal length. So you can select 28, 35, 48, or 77 millimeters. And if you go to the Pro Max, it actually switches up to a 5x zoom, optical zoom, which is a 120 millimeter equivalent lens. And this picture in the lower right corner here shows how they built what they call the tetraprism to cause the light to travel a farther distance before it gets to the sensor, that allows them to do that 5x optical zoom that is only available on the larger Pro Max machine. Another feature, and I think this is enabled by the A17 Pro processor, they're going to allow you to use the 2 of the 3 lenses on the back to do spatial video with the LiDAR scanner to do the 3D capture to allow people to watch spatial 3D videos with the new Vision Pro. So they're now enabling everyone to be able to create those spatial videos that they can share with people that have Vision Pros, or that you'll probably only be able to watch on a Vision Pro. With the A17 Pro, they updated to a USB-C. They put a new piece of hardware in there to do this, and it now supports 10 gigabits per second for the USB 3 speed. They did say, and I don't know if this is true for the iPhone 15 or not with the USB 2 speeds, but you can definitely do live video captures over the USB 3, so you can capture directly to an external hard drive instead of storing it internal to your iPhone 15 Pro. That will definitely speed up video processing and transfer if you can store it directly onto a fast USB 3 hard drive. Okay, so I should probably have put an asterisk on this. So those are the main things that they announced. And so the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, these are the same prices as the 14 was last year, starting at $799 and then up to 512 gigabyte, $1099 or $1199. The 15 Pro, also the same prices, $999 for the 128 gig, up to $1499 for a terabyte of storage. The Pro Max, last year they did have a 128 gigabyte model. This year they're not providing that. So the price, the lowest entry price did go up, but it went up with a doubling of storage. So it's $1199 for the intro for the 256 Pro Max with that 5x optical zoom, up to $1599, which is more than the price of, you know, a MacBook Air. One of the things I saw here, people were comparing the A17 processor benchmarks to the Intel i9 latest generation processor, and the single performance core is within about 5 to 10%, depending on which test you're running, of the fastest processor that Intel sells for the desktop. So the processors, these A17 processor Pro in the iPhone is equivalent to the desktop class processors. They made drastic improvements in the graphics units for the iPhone 15 Pro. They spent quite a bit of time talking about how the graphics were improved and the graphics performance. And it includes actual live ray tracing in the A17. So photorealistic type of scenes done using ray tracing. So I also have a list of the links that I used. I used a couple Mac Rumors pages. I was really trying to highlight in the Watch series what the differences were between the 8 and 9. And I would like to point people to the chat. Melissa has identified that the double tap gesture does work all the way back to the Apple Watch Series 4, and it works with the Apple SE and later, which is all the stuff that's supported with the new OS, but you have to enable it through the assistive touch.
And Tony, also, it will not answer phones. It's only assistive touch features.
Okay. Are there other questions? That was the overview, and knowing that we have someone coming next month to look at a lot of the details, and I tried to stick with what did they present and what did they talk about. And next month we'll hear all the cool things that people found that they didn't really actually announce in the presentation, but people have found out and looked at, and we'll have a month under our belts with some people trying the new iOS 17. Personally, I am thinking I'm going to stick with my iPhone 13 Pro, but my wife is going to upgrade from her iPhone 8 to the iPhone 15 Pro. She's not sure she likes the bigger size, so it's probably just going to be the Pro and not the Pro Max. I think my upgrade this year is going to be upgrading my watch from a Series 4, which I horribly dropped on tile and broke the sapphire glass, and it was going to cost just as much to replace it as to buy a new watch. So I think I will probably be updating to the Series 9 watch.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
I don't know if you know the answer, but this is what a girl can dream. So I got this Anchor, Apple makes their MagSafe battery pack, right? Do you think it'd be possible with a Pro or even a 15 standard that you could stick a MagSafe battery pack on the back of the phone, and then you know how you can charge your AirPods or your watch with your phone. So your phone is going to act as a battery pack, right? And this has pass-through charging. So I can plug this into a wall socket while it's on the back of my iPhone and it'll charge both. Not as fast, but it'll charge both. Do you think I'd be able to do that and then plug in my watch and charge my watch and just travel with one USB cable?
Well, you would still need the watch
The watch
charging cable.
So two cables.
Two cables.
Two cables. You think it's a possibility?
It is a possibility. I think that would have to be experimented with.
Yeah.
To see if it accepts providing charge over USB-C while receiving power over MagSafe.
Right.
Melissa, the charger that I use that has MagSafe
Yeah.
has USB-C in for charging, USB out,
Okay.
and MagSafe. So you could put it on your phone, you could charge it at the same time, and the output can charge your watch.
Oh, okay. It's got an input and an output. Whereas
It's
like
got an
this
input
one-
and an output where that only has an input.
right. So that's what you would need to get to accomplish maybe that.
Yeah, and
Unless,
and it wasn't that expensive.
Mhm. Yeah, these went on sale for half off. And this is really all I need, but I just, if it works, that would be really, really super cool. But do you think it could, if you plugged in, you wouldn't need that second port if you plug your watch into the bottom of an iPhone 15 with USB-C?
Well, you still
Yeah.
need a cable to connect your iPhone to it. Or your watch to the iPhone.
The watch to the iPhone. Right, right.
But
this
at the
would
same
be on
time, you
back.
could get that dual 35-watt charger that
But
has
would I need
two.
that if this is on the back of my iPhone
So
and I plug
I
in
have
the
this
watch
little
in the
anchor
bottom?
charger.
Yeah.
This is the travel anchor charger. One
Yeah, that's
cable to
cool.
the wall, and then it has two MagSafes, one for the phone and
Yeah.
and one for the watch. It's on the side.
I have a travel anchor too, and it has all three. It has the AirPods, the watch, and the
Yeah,
and the
like
phone.
this.
So I mean, I have something where I can charge all three, but it would just be fun if now that you can plug it into the bottom of the phone. I just wonder if that would work. Be a fun experiment.
It's something that would have to be experimented with. I don't.
Yeah. Whoever
They
gets their phone
didn't
first, come
specifically
on
talk
over.
about that.
It'll probably work, knowing Apple.
Well, our special guest, Derrick, has not joined the meeting as yet. I do believe he'll be with us shortly. I did tell him 8 o'clock, and we are 15 minutes shy of that. Are there any other questions for any of us?
Actually, I have a question I should have brought up earlier. Has
Okay.
anybody used iCloud domains? Where you could have
I
your
do.
own email domain and use iCloud Mail for it?
Not yet, but when I get brave enough, I'll let you know.
Well, I'm trying to set it up which isn't easy, but I'm wondering is if you could have a separate mailbox for the other domain, or does it all filter into the same mailbox?
Hmm.
I haven't been able to find that out. Some people say yes, some people say no.
Are you talking about your alias versus your?
Well, it
domain?
would, like, I own a web domain and I have an email for there, and the email provider needed me to jump through hoops for the new security. And I figured if I'm gonna jump through hoops, let me switch it over to Apple.
Mhm.
And see what happens. And I'm not sure if that's a plus or a minus, because if it's separate email accounts that get checked, that'd be great. If it all filters into my inbox and where I don't know which email address it was sent to, that could be an issue. And it's not an alias, it's a separate domain.
Mhm. Didn't you set up rules or filters?
I don't know yet.
You had to.
I've been working on this for a week now, and my
Oh,
registrar is
no.
still trying to get everything that Apple wants put
Oh.
into the DNS servers.
What mail service are you switching from? If you don't mind.
I used to use Zoho,
Okay,
only because years ago I got a free account there
same here.
and, they've grandfathered the free accounts.
Mhm.
So, and it has worked flawlessly over the years.
Nice.
But now they're requiring security, and I figured if I'm gonna add security, let me try something else out. And I may end up going back to them.
Mhm. It's an interesting quandary. You have to make a mind map to figure it out.
Yeah, there's not enough information
chart.
on the web about it, other than the fact that you could do it.
I tried it when it first came out, Kevin, but it didn't, something choked at the end. And I just have not gone back. I'd be really interested in your answers as well.
The main, yeah, the main thing is you have to have your whoever the registrar is, like I use Network Solutions. They have to manually go in and enter the TXT entries
You can't do it
into
yourself?
their DNS server.
You can't do it yourself?
Okay.
It's not something that I could do. And so I had to do it on my old email service. So I figured, let me try Apple's at this time. And it's taken them, it's been like 5 days so far. And they just saying that it has to be done at somebody above the level of tech support.
Well, come on.
So,
Oh, I'm so happy you addressed that topic.
hi, Diane.
Hello. I'm here.
Migrating
Everything
emails
has
not
been
fun.
going awfully, and so I haven't even been able to entertain the idea of a new product.
So who here is going to try out the assistive touch on their Apple Watch so that you can?
I've
double
already
tap?
tried it, and there was an article I found. Let me see if I can find my
Mine
bookmarks.
will answer the phone. My dad called today and it answered.
Does it?
Yeah.
What setting do you use for that? I've tried that, and hold on a second. Let me find in my history here.
I think I just have like the basic one turned on. I have experimented with, adding clenching, double pinching, all that kind of stuff, but
Right.
I talk with my hands and
Yeah,
watch
I
it
just sent to
scroll
the
in.
chat the article that I used to turn it on last week.
Let's see, I have accessibility. Then I have quick actions? I have quick actions turned on. This quick action says, when prompted, double pinch to perform the quick action, meaning like if your timer's going off, that's what I use it a lot for. I set
Right.
a timer's going off. When I raise my wrist, it highlights blue and I can just go and it will
Right.
dismiss it. So I have that enabled and set on Apple Watch. You can do it either in your phone on the Watch app, or you can do it right there on the Apple Watch. So you can try going to the Apple Watch settings and scroll all the way down to where it says quick actions and make sure that checked is on. There's a green check mark. And then there's appearance, there's full and there's minimal. I have full turned on. I do
Okay.
not have, this is what's interesting, I do not have assistive touch enabled for that. So it's actually not, for me, it's not working under the assistive touch settings. It's working under the quick actions.
Okay.
So try disabling assistive touch and just enable quick actions and see if that gives it to you. And then just set a
Okay.
timer for 10 seconds.
So
Well,
how do you, okay, hand gestures are on. And what do you have your double pinch set for?
Let's see. Accessibility.
Is it just tap?
I believe so.
Okay.
well, our special guest has been able to join us. Hello,
Oh, yay.
Derrick. Want to welcome you. You are muted. we're going to need you to unmute sometime in the very near future. There you go. I want to welcome Derrick. He is a well-known photographer, podcaster, pundit, and longtime Mac user. And I hope to join him for one of his workshops, hopefully in Sedona in this fall. But he had a wonderful article and podcast about how to preserve and protect those old family photos, such as I have here. My sister just sent me a whole bunch of these with no explanation. Here's these photos. You take care of them. And Derrick's going to talk about how to do that. So I'd like to turn it over to Derrick and let him know that he can share his screen if and when he needs to. And
Good.
Take it away, Derrick.
All righty. Good. Thank you. You hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Excellent. So yeah, I'm Derrick Story, and I'll show you my site and stuff in a little bit. But the thing about being a photographer is that we become the repository for other people's work too in the family. We become often by default the family historians. So there we go. We end up with all the stuff, and on one hand, we want to take care of it. We want to be good custodians of memories. On the other hand, we don't want to fill up our house with a bunch of stuff that's unorganized, and we don't know what to do, and end up leaving it behind, and our kids have to deal with it, and all that kind of stuff. So this is something that so many people have to wrestle with. And so I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a screen. I'm just going to kind of walk through a few basic things, and then I have a nice, what Bob's referring to, I have a nice kind of shortcut that essentially buys us time while we're trying to figure out what the master plan is going to be. And this all is online, and I'll show you where it is so that you can just enjoy the conversation right now and then go look at the details later on. So let's share this screen here, and I'm guessing, let's see, it's gonna give me what I want. I had to switch computers 10 minutes ago. Zoom decided that it did not want to, oh my gosh. Let's see here. See if it's going to let me do what I want to do here. As my, let's try this share again. There we go. It is going to let me do it. There we go. Everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Is one of
All
those
right.
bunnies you?
Yes.
Yep.
Bunny boys. Yeah. So we all have stuff like this, right? We've got these shots. Sometimes we inherit them. Sometimes we know who they are. Sometimes we don't, right? And so then one Saturday afternoon, we decide, okay, we're going to get organized. We're going to grab the bull by the horns here and start kind of taking care of this stuff. And what happens to a lot of folks is they get, a few hours into this project and they get everything spread out all over the place. And then they've discovered they spent a whole day and they've made absolutely no progress whatsoever. So they end up just sort of taking everything and putting it back in the box and saying, okay, I'll figure this out later. And, we do have some nice options for digitizing this. And, essentially that's what we want to do is, get it in digital format. And I don't mean getting rid of all the paper material, but we definitely want to get it digitized because over time, and especially color snapshots done from photomat during certain periods of time, they will denigrate over time. And so we kind of want to stop that aging process right in its boots. And the best way to do that is to digitize the stuff, and then we can color correct the shots that we like. So we have tools, that we can do this with. The problem with the tools is most of the home tools are not very fast. So if you're lucky enough to get negatives, well, you can get a little Kodak negative scanner or some other brand of scanner, but this process takes a lot of time as you're going through it, and you're going to just discover that it's not a really workable method, other than for the hero shots, the shots that you really want to spend some time with. And let's say out of a stack of 100, that's usually only going to be a few. All right. So this, some of these home techniques are great, but they're slow. Now, one that is not too bad is the Epson Fast Photo. And I have the first iteration of it. There's a second iteration of it out right now. And this is actually a pretty nice little setup. And what it is that you can put a stack of 4x6 prints in there, and it's almost like a copy machine. It goes really fast. It goes bum, 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 bum. And it even allows you to do things like add metadata to those digitized images, and the scans are pretty good. So, I mean, once you decide what you want to digitize, what you want to save, this is a neat machine. What's the downside? Well, it's like $500 or $600, depending on where you get it. And I don't think a lot of people are really prepared to spend that kind of money, for this project that was probably foisted upon them. So, and there is work. So even though the thing is fast, if you actually really want to do it right and you want to have metadata, go with those images. Because what happens most of the time when we scan an image, what does the metadata say? The metadata says the scan date, right? Not the actual date of the photo. A lot of times we can approximate the date when the shot was taken, and that's the date that we want to have associated with the image. And this device here, this Epson device, allows us to do that through the software. Again, great once you know what you want to digitize. Once you have taken that big stack of images and whittle them down to, a couple hundred that you're willing to spend this time on. So, I was thinking about this, and I have an online training for digitizing family memories that go into all these details, and getting into things like trying to do a little research on the images that you want, and then using Post-it notes on the back of the prints to add that to them, so you're not actually writing on the print, all that kind of stuff. And the training goes into pretty good detail, and it gives you some pretty good options. But I was thinking, the thing about it is, like, and what happened to me is what's happened to probably most of you, is that I just show up somewhere at some sort of family gathering, and I'm handed an envelope of stuff. I had not prepared, I had not set aside time. This just appears. And I don't want to just stick that envelope in the closet somewhere and forget about it, but at the same time, I don't have time to work on it. So I decided to come up with this method that was a stopgap. And this is what, why I'm speaking here tonight, because a lot of folks have really responded to this as a way to buy them time. And here's the way that it works. And then I'll actually show you a bulleted list of the steps. But basically, you get all of the images that you're handed. And instead of trying to sort them and do all that pre-stuff, just pull out the obvious bow wows. There's always going to be shots where you just go right away, I'm not going to mess around with this. And then take the shots that you're interested in and just put them on your flatbed scanner. Almost everyone has, especially photographers, have a multi-purpose printer scanner sort of thing. And just put them on there. Now, if you're lucky, there's going to be some information on the back of them too, which is really terrific. So what I do is I just arrange them 6 at a time, 7, 8 at a time, however many I can get on that screen at a time, get them on there. And the first thing that I do is that I take a picture of the back here with my phone so that I have any information that's on the back. Then I go ahead and just flatbed scan the whole group of them. And what this becomes is sort of a fancy contact sheet. So you have the information that was on the back, if there was any, and then you have, this scan. And then what you do is you just label, and you go, okay, this is A1, and then you put the images, you could put them in an envelope, you could put them in glassine sleeve, whatever you want, and label that A1 so that your contact sheet can be matched up to some physical media that you can go back to. You can go through a whole stack. I went through a pretty big stack of images in an hour, a whole bunch of them that any of the other methods I would have done, I would have spent a day on, which I didn't have a day, but I did have an hour. And I went through and I got them all digitized, and I've got all the envelopes. And then I'm stashing those away. Now, when I have time, or when someone asks me for an image, I go, okay, I can just pull up these contact sheets. I just keep them in photos for Mac OS, and they'll go, you know what? That shot right there, I love that shot. This one right here, for example. Can you give me that? Can you give me a scan of that? And you go, yes, I can. Yes, I can. So then you go back to your envelope, A1, pull this out, and then you can spend time scanning that, touching it up, doing whatever you need to do to meet the need that you have, whether it's family reunion or it's a request or it's something that where you want to start putting together your prized shots. And you still have all the other contact sheets, you still have all the other stuff available to you. It draws a middle line between taking a whole bunch of time to deal with a stack of stuff, yet you're doing something with them, and you've really taken a good first step toward organizing. I'm going to show you the steps right here, because I have them ready to go. All right, so here's the podcast right here. And it's on thedigitalstory.com. Okay, it's podcast 908 on August 15th. So you can go to the show notes. You can listen to the podcast, but here are the steps. I just wanted to show you these steps right here. So you group the photos, place them face down on the scanner, take a picture of the back. And a lot of times, I don't know about the stuff you inherited, but I've been surprised that there is a fair amount of information on the back of the images. Name the files, create the album. And so I just have an album and photos that have these contact sheets. I file the originals and make sure that you can match the originals with the contact sheets, and then store them in a safe place. You can take a deep breath now. You have, if nothing else, if the worst case scenario happens, you have a version of that shot. And with the software that we have these days to resize upward, sample up, you could actually take a portion of that scan and, cut it, crop it and scan it up and actually have a pretty decent image to share with someone, although you know where the original is. And this is something that will allow you in a very non-painful way to start to manage that big shoebox of stuff that you've inherited or that you've collected or that someone gave to you, and not feel guilty about it, but at the same time, not lose your entire weekend or a series of weekends to this project. So that was just the gist of it right there. I'll show you a couple other things, but first let's do a couple questions. Anyone have any questions on the whole process?
I do have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
I even wrote some down.
All right.
As I recall on your podcast, you talked about doing the scan at 600 DPI.
Mm-hmm.
And that is probably higher than a lot of people would normally do it. But that is going to give you something you can work with at a later date, should you need to.
Correct.
My other questions are:
you can go higher too.
Right.
You can go 1,200 if you want.
With those black and white photos from the 40s and 50s with the little deckled edges on them, if you scan them at 1,000 DPI, it's not going to get any better.
No. Good point. Good point. Good point.
Can you scan directly into photos?
I have never tried that. Well, let's take a look here.
I've never tried it either.
Let me just take a peek real quick while you're doing. I don't believe you have it would be under import, right? And no.
Okay.
What was the question, Bob?
Can I scan from my flatbed scanner directly into iPhoto, or do I have to do it into some folder and then import them into iPhoto?
I believe if you use either image capture or view scan, you can. Let me double check that though.
Okay. A next question is, I think you've answered it. What is your naming convention for keeping the scan together with the photo of the back of them?
Yeah, and the beauty of this, Bob, is one of the things that slows you down is like having some naming convention for every image, right? When you're doing it like the other way. This, all you have to do is have a naming convention for the contact sheet with 4, 6, 8 photos on it, however many you can get on there. You just have to have the naming convention for that match to an envelope that has those images in it. So you can imagine how the time savings really start to add up when you don't have to have a naming convention for every image.
My third question is it okay to leave a Post-it note on the back of a paper photo in storage, or do you need special acid-free Post-it notes, or should you use an acid-free piece of paper and a photo mounting tape? Or
my gut says that you're probably okay with a Post-it. Obviously, and especially for black and white stuff, if if you look at what these prints have probably been through before we got our hands on them,
you got a good point there,
and they still look pretty good. So I think you're okay with a Post-it note. I haven't read any articles, white papers about that one way or another. I do not like regular adhesives and things like that. And the thing about the Post-it note, that adhesive seems pretty harmless. So okay. I think you're okay. I feel like you're okay.
Those are my questions. I would guess that somebody else is going to have a question or two.
Yeah.
Susan Oates.
Yeah. Slides. Have you ever worked with slides?
I do. Susan, I have a mountain of them. One thing, when I look back at my early days as a photographer, one thing I will say is I shot way too many slides.
Yeah.
Well, Derrick, I used to shoot slides for weddings.
Oh my gosh.
But a wedding was 150 photographs.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to my photographic mentor, who in the late 40s, early 50s, after the war, when he would do a wedding, it was like, okay, 36 exposures
Yeah.
on his speed graphic. That was,
Yeah. And that's what you
Uh,
get.
yeah. You just got to make sure you do them right.
You know, going back to Susan's comment about slides, so slides can be good news, bad news. The good news for a lot of my slides is I do have them in pages, and there are some adapters for flatbeds that allow you to scan positives the entire page. And I would look into that if you want to do some digitizing on a whole scale. My problem was the reason why slides aren't as a big issue for me as prints is my slides tend to be things like landscapes and stuff like that. What I have found over time as I get older, the shots that really matter to me are shots of people, friends, family, that kind of thing. And those tend to be prints more often than not. So I find myself, now that I'm digitizing the things that really matter to me, I'm working more with prints, because those what was seemingly just like, you know, goofing around at a birthday party has now become, you know, a treasured memory. Whereas when I was all serious about my landscape work when I was, you know, 28, you know, and all that, honestly, a lot of that I could care less about right now. And it's really weird how that whole process is sort of flipped on me.
Okay, yeah.
Susan, I have a Epson photo scanner, and it comes with different things you lay on the bed. Here's one that will take 4 slides at one time, and this is for like 35 millimeter film strips.
Wow.
And then here's another one for a different size negatives. And being the kind of guy I am, it's labeled shiny side down.
It's important.
It's especially important after you've done it shiny side up.
Yes.
And you realize.
Okay, got a question, comment. Bob, image capture will scan directly to photos.
Okay.
That's number one. And the question I have is actually 2-part. When you're doing those old black and white images or scans, what's your opinion of using digital ice or not using digital ice? My scanner has it built in.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and usually you have different levels that you can use for that. If the stuff is in bad shape, I mean, if you've got a lot of you know, like white marks or whatever, you know, from abuse, I think digital ice is a luxury, is a wonderful convenience. But a lot of times I don't notice I don't have the need for the digital ice on this first thing that we're doing, you know, the contact sheets. However, someone asked me for a nice version of one of those prints, then I will use something like that, just because it saves me retouching time. So I'm neither against it or for it. I like it in certain situations, though. It is nice. You don't have it for the flatbed, though, right? Isn't that mainly
Nope, I actually have a
film?
flatbed that has digital ice built into it.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
Epson made one years ago.
How cool is that? Wow.
So I've used it when I've scanned old photos for people.
How does it work? Does it work well?
It saves you a lot of the dust and scratch. It doesn't work well if it's really creased.
Yeah.
But it seems to work. I was just wondering if it's better to use digital ice or some of these AI things, like I have gigapixel AI. Is that
Well, it doesn't
easier?
have to be either or. You can does your resolution, does your sharpness hold okay with digital ice? Is
Yeah,
it
oh,
not?
extremely. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, well then heck, I I would use that, and then if you need more for creases or stuff like that, then then you can go to the tools we have now, which are fantastic.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
wow. That's a cool. So it's an old Epson that has that.
Yeah, it's
huh?
an Epson 4870.
Wow, that's cool.
It does film and flatbed and paper and has built-in digital ice, which is nice.
Yeah, my only experience with it has been on Minolta and Nikon film scanners, and I liked it. I liked it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Melissa?
I put some screenshots in the chat so you can see it in action.
Oh,
Hey,
All
Kurt, check it
right.
out.
sorry,
Hey,
I had my
Melissa.
video off before.
It's a Brother multifunction, and I did this wirelessly. It's the printer's right over there,
Uh-huh.
but it all went in through wirelessly through image capture. So it works.
And right into photos, Melissa.
It'll go right into photos. Yeah,
That's
if you look
cool.
at the screenshot there, you can see that I have photos selected as the destination.
Nice. Did it let you create an album or send it to an album, or does it go straight to the library? Can you tell?
It went straight to the library,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not
so-
too hard to then just go
No.
and
No.
put it in an album. Another thing that's cool with photos, and you probably have done this, but my brother-in-law and I are the shutterbugs and the photogs in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest gifts that he has given us is when he comes home for holidays, he'll just spend a lot of the time going through the family photo albums.
Mm.
And he went and did, like you were describing, kind of like making like contact sheets where
Mm-hmm.
he'll just lay the whole photo, he'll take a page out of the photo album and put it on the scanner. He has done a combination of whole pages where it'll have multiple pictures on it, and then individual ones with an Epson document scanner like you showed there.
Yeah.
And then what he did was he put them in his iPhoto library and then created individual albums as shared albums. So
Sweet.
now the whole family can see those shared albums. And when it was especially helpful when my father-in-law passed away, then we could all kind of like go and look at those pictures, and
Yeah.
you can add comments to those. So when you have historical photos in the family like that, and there's no details on the backs of those pictures, there's an opportunity right there for your family members to go and contribute their favorite stories about that image,
Yeah.
about what was happening. Like they can write the captions for those photos, and then you have a very rich history to go with your digital library of
Yeah,
shared photos.
that's a fantastic point, and there's kind of a dovetail to that method also. We call it the living photo album. And at a family gathering, if you have someone, especially a patriarch or a matriarch, that really knows what's going on in a lot of those albums, because a lot of
Yeah.
times you or I won't.
Yeah.
And the trick is that you set it up as a video. So you just open up the album, you have the person talking and pointing, well, that's Aunt Mabel and that's Uncle George, and they actually, were married for a while, and then and you actually have the person pointing and talking about it, and you just videotape it.
Yeah.
And have them go through the whole album. And then what happens is you can either share the video, or you can extract the metadata from the video and then apply it the way that you're talking. But the reason why I like that is because it's just a conversation. A lot of times these people are comfortable with it, and you take care of all of that work in like 15 or 20
Yeah,
minutes.
that's like killing two birds with one stone.
It is.
And a lot of times they might not remember, who you are, but they'll remember stuff from 30, 40, 50 years
Absolutely.
ago. So you can get that rich knowledge and get that history.
Yeah, and sometimes we miss that opportunity.
know.
They're right there with us, and we think everything's going to stay the same for a long time, and it doesn't.
And it gets lost. It gets
It
lost.
gets lost.
And
Yeah.
along those lines, to dovetail into getting lost, now would be a really good opportunity for everybody to go in and set up your digital legacy. Because if you're going to go and you're going to do all of this work, then you want to protect that. I don't know if you had that in your presentation or not, but everybody here
don't,
knows I'm a big advocate for digital legacy, because you do all that work and that investment of time and energy and effort. And then if you have a stroke or if you pass away, then it goes with you and nobody has access to that. So
Yeah.
start this process and then immediately go and pick out a digital legacy person, a contact or someone that you give access to your iCloud, for example, because you want them to have access to all of those photos then, so that they can share them with the rest of the family and pass on the legacy to everybody else.
It's a great point. It's funny, I just did that with my boys and my wife, and we keep a folder on our desktop. Everything's behind password,
Yes.
but
if I
but
get hit
then
by a bus,
yeah, but they have access to my computers, and then they also have the other part of that because of two-step verification.
Right.
They need a lot of times to have access to your phone too. So that they can also verify, getting into certain areas.
yeah, that's what that legacy contact will let them do.
Yep.
Are there any other questions for Derrick? Chris? You're muted, Chris.
Sorry about that. Hi, Derrick. There were some online services like Shoebox and stuff that would do big group scans, and then you could select the ones you wanted and only pay for those. And are any of those still around? Do you recommend any of them? Any thoughts?
Yeah, there are. They are still around. There's just a couple things to keep in mind. They're all pretty good. One of the things is they do end up taking up more time than you think they would when you start out. It starts out just kind of thinking, oh, it's a simple thing, just send them all this stuff. But remember, you still have to go through it at some point, right?
Right.
So either you go through it in the beginning, or you kick the can down the road and you go through it when all that stuff is scanned. One way or another, you're going to have to go through it. So there's that. The other part is, and this is the thing that any service you're thinking about using, where do your images go? Because a lot of times they go outside of the country, and that can be okay, but maybe if they're precious memories, maybe you're not that comfortable with that. So it's a question worth asking or looking in their FAQs just to find out how your stuff is handled, so that it doesn't get lost in transit.
It's a good point.
Yeah,
Well taken.
yeah.
Do you have any tips
Great.
for preserving video? Like, I'm just old enough to have been on some 8mm film. My baby
Yeah.
home movies are on 8mm, and I keep begging my dad, please, can we get something done with this before it just disintegrates into dust? And I got him a tripod, and I thought, maybe one of these days he'll set up the movie projector screen and like maybe shoot it that way. Like, have you ever done that with any kind of success?
With 8mm, I would send that out, because
Okay.
the services, they do a great job of that.
Okay.
And you get a nice little H.264 or whatever, back from them, depending on what you pay for. And I think that's one of those situations where having the right equipment is a godsend.
Yeah, because I don't even know if it'll play, and I get worried about like what happens if it's deteriorating. And he got that camera from the Navy, and
Oh, I mean, the thing I worry about more is VHS tapes, or any sort of magnetic tape. A lot of stuff was shot on that, by parents after they went through the 8mm phase, and at least the 8mm holds up a lot longer.
that's
right?
good to know.
Yeah.
That gives me hope.
Yeah, it does hold
Still
up
gonna
longer.
get on
But
his case about it though, because it's in the basement where it should be.
yeah. Well, moisture and things can change that. But magnetic tape will deteriorate much faster. Yeah. But I would send that out.
Okay.
that out.
I'm glad
Get
I
'em-
asked. Thank you.
Oh, so yeah, you just got to get it from them.
From his cold dead hands someday.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
I promise I'll give it back to you
Yeah,
once we've
exactly.
saved it.
Well, thank you, Derrick, for sharing with us and going to the trouble of coming to our meeting. I want to put a plug in for your podcast, The Digital Story.
Thank you.
I checked my podcatcher of choice, and as always, the Tuesday edition is there waiting for me. For for the new one. And Derrick does a lot of workshops, and I've lobbied Derrick to consider coming to Tucson to do a workshop, and I would, take him around to the different places such as the Saguaro National Forest and some Spanish missions and other places like a ghost town and so forth, and see if I can get him interested in doing a workshop here in Tucson. I think there's a lot of potential there.
We should keep that conversation going.
Let's do
And
that.
some of our better restaurants as well.
Hey, that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it.
Where are you located, Derrick?
I'm in Santa Rosa, California. So I'm Northern California boy, although I'm going, we're setting up a shop here in just a few weeks in Cottonwood. And, that's going to be our spur there. And we'll go to Jerome, we'll go to Sedona. We've got some nice kind of hidden spots to go to. So I'm going to be north of you guys.
If you get a chance, take a ride on the Tanque Verde Railroad up there.
I have read about that. Can you vouch for it? Is it good?
Amazing.
Okay, good. Good to hear.
Had you
Derrick,
been to
I have-
Sedona?
Oh yeah, I
was gonna
have.
say this can't be your first rodeo, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. But this is the first time I've done a workshop there. So that's a whole different, like it's one thing knowing how to take a picture, and it's another thing teaching someone else how to take a picture. And workshops are the same way. So my first time, but my brother lives in Flag, and I am friends with another photographer that's based out of Jerome. So I've got some good help. And I go out and scout like 4 days before, so it's just not off paper.
Okay, Derrick, I have one last request of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like your computer to pick the door prize winner. If you would ask your S lady to pick a number between 1 and 29, we'll see who wins.
1 and 29. I love that. All right, here we go. Here's the magic. I got a big wheel right here that just happens to have 29 numbers on it, and it comes up with 17.
17. Diana Mueller. Diana, are you still with us? There she is. Diana.
Yes, I'm not the digital legacy yet.
Yeah, well, digital legacy is still on our list of things to talk about, and I will send you a Apple gift card tomorrow, allowing you to use it for music or anything Apple.
And congratulations.
Thank you, Derrick. That was really nice.
Did he tell you it was a $500 gift card?
No, actually it's $30. I'm keeping the other $470.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I wasn't supposed to talk about that, was I?
Okay. Are there let's see, I'm pretty sure Bob Doms has just put the link to the feedback form in the chat, and we would encourage you all to click on that link and fill out the feedback form in your browser of choice, because it really does help us plan next meetings. Next month, we have Dave Hamilton join us from the Mac Geek Gab, and Derrick's nodding his head, so he knows who Dave is.
He's a good dude. A
good dude.
Yep.
So thank you all, and I am going to save the chat. I've picked a winner for the door prize. I think my work here is done. Anybody else have any comments as we close out the evening?
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure being here with you guys. And
certainly a pleasure
nice
to
meeting
have
you,
you
Derrick.
join us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Derrick.
It was great. Thanks, Derrick.
Just a thought, though, Derrick. You didn't mention if your workshops are open, to anyone, or what the fees are, or anything like that. Do you want to tell us anything like that?
I could just tell you that I'm working on the 2024 season. 2023 sold out, but 2024 I'm working on. And Bob's going to publish, he's going to share a link again to thedigitalstory.com. There's a big workshops at the top, and check it out in November, and it's open to everyone. I do both online and physical workshops, both. Online, obviously, are super affordable. Physical is going to cost a little bit more. Usually four days, around $1,200.
But Derrick feeds you too.
I
And
do.
gives you a place to stay.
I do. You get it's people have a good time. It's not a money maker, but it's a lot of fun.
I'm just hoping that one of your Sedona people has to bow out, because I think I'm number one on the standby list.
No one's budging yet. No one's budging yet.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think that this is going to help several of us, because we're the people who get those big piles of photographs from their relatives.
Exactly.
And have a good evening, and come back and see us again in a month. Thanks, Derrick.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.